Hi guys, how we doing? It's Goddess Awake here again. So yeah, like I said, this is a follow-up from the video I just did about ego and ego death, ego rebirth and reintegration. It's a follow-up video about spiritual ego. So if you haven't watched the one about the ego, I would recommend that you go watch that first, just because it would make more sense to, it follows on from, this video is going to follow on from that one, it'll make more sense. If not, go and watch it after, no problem. So as I was saying in the last video, once we've dealt with our personal ego and shadow side and monkey brain, egoic mind and all that, once we've got that in control and we've got that balanced and we're coming from a heart place, not the monkey mind, and we're coming from a higher self, not the egoic place, not the egoic mind, sorry, then many of us develop a spiritual ego. And we move from our own ego into a new spiritual ego. And that spiritual ego can, I would say it does probably kick in most people that go through the spiritual journey and like do the ego rebirth and reintegration thing. I'm pretty sure it probably does crop up in quite a lot of people. And it is something to be keeping in mind as a spiritual person on a spiritual journey. We can easily get a spiritual ego, so just keep yourself in check and know what to look for with your spiritual ego. So I've got my notes again, guys, so that's what I'm reading, just so I make sure I cover everything I want to say. Okay, so what is a spiritual ego? So spiritual ego is thinking that you're better than everybody else or above them. So you've learned all this newfound information, you've got a new understanding, you've had all these downloads, you maybe have things kicking in like psychic abilities, you may be channeling, you may be remote viewing, all that kind of thing. And you've gone through that realization that everything is not what you thought it was. You've gone through the spiritual awakening, you've gone through the ego work, and you're like, yes, I'm on point now, I'm a spiritual master, I know what I'm doing, I am better than all the sheeple out there and all the people that are asleep because I'm awake and I'm further down the line than they are, and I know all this information, so you're wrong, you're stupid because you're wrong. That is a spiritual ego. So if you find yourself judging people because they're asleep or they're sheeple or any of that kind of thing, or they don't know the stuff that you do, even if they ridicule you or laugh at you or take the mickey out of you or call you a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist or whatever they do, if you think you're better than them in that moment for whatever reason and you sit there judging them because you're more spiritual and more positive and full of love and light, then that's the spiritual ego. Yeah, another example of a spiritual ego is to refuse to focus on or help people in need or in suffering. So some spiritual people, once they've had the awakening, they just want to focus entirely on positivity. They won't entertain people that are struggling or in need of help or support. They won't even focus on it because they're too scared it's going to bring the vibration down and it's going to affect their reality and their manifesting and frequency and everything. So they will avoid those sort of people or those situations, and that is another example of a spiritual ego. Basically, you're still coming from a place of fear and ego because you're fearful that helping somebody in need is going to affect your karma or your vibration. It's going to bring you down, so you just avoid it altogether. Whereas somebody who's dealt with and integrated their spiritual ego will sit with somebody in their darkness without absorbing it and will shine light on their darkness and won't be fearful of being around that situation. So they'll have no problem like being supportive to depressive people. Well, depressive people, it's not a very nice way of saying it, is it? People with depression, people with anxiety or mental illness, or somebody that's suffering real bad or going through such a hard time. If your spiritual ego is integrated, you're going to be with them and you're going to know, you're just going to be there to listen, to maybe guide them if they want a bit of guidance, and you're not scared to go there with people and be that person for people, and you're more than willing to shine a light on somebody's darkness. Yeah, so if you find yourself not wanting to help people who need help and support, you don't want to focus on people that are having a bad time in life or haven't got anything or are ill or just having a real bad time, then you've got a spiritual ego, and that's not what spirituality is about. Spirituality is about shining a light in those people's dark times and being there with them, sitting in the darkness with them, supporting them, listening. You don't have to go and wave a magic wand. You don't have to go and fix these people. You just have to have a big enough heart and an open heart to just sit and with compassion and empathy, try and understand what they're going through, and yeah, be supportive and helpful. That's service to others. That's what it's about. And that's why we're here. We're here to move into that service to others. So don't let the fear or the judgment of those people or that situation or the vibration around it let you have a spiritual ego and end up becoming a bit of a shitty person, to be honest. Also, okay, so another example of a spiritual ego is not being open-minded enough to change your opinions when presented with new information. So many people, so many of us will do the research, we'll learn what we've learned, we'll get to a certain point and we'll be like, right, I know everything now. I know everything. What I know is 100% the truth. It's my way or the highway. This is it. Nothing can change my mind. Nothing anybody can say can make me feel any differently. This is how it is. And some people that are on the spiritual journey do get to that point and they do struggle to be open to anything else. And they're just like real stuck in the ways like, this is it. This is what I've learned. This is what I believe now for the rest of my life. If someone comes to you with a new opinion or new evidence or new information that maybe makes you think about something differently and you still cannot be open to it and take on board what they've said, even if you end up disagreeing with it, then you've got a spiritual ego. If you can actually adapt and change when somebody said to you, oh, I found this out today and it kind of goes against what you said, are you willing to go into it? And you go into it with them and you end up changing your mind and your beliefs, then you have integrated your spiritual ego like an absolute boss. So yeah, that is the way to go. Another example of spiritual ego is thinking everybody should be like you. So once you've done all that work and you've learned all this new spiritual stuff, you've had your spiritual awakening, and then you think, why isn't everybody like me? I've struggled with this. I'm going to be honest with you. As soon as I started waking up and I started understanding things, and I still have to check myself on this one sometimes, because I do kind of have those moments where I'm like, why are you not awake yet? Why can you not see it the way it is yet? But everybody's on a different journey. Everybody's here with different soul contracts. Everybody's here to learn different stuff, master different stuff. Everybody's here to awaken at different times. Maybe they won't even awaken in this lifetime. It's highly unlikely with the way we're moving into 5D, but some people won't, and that's okay. Not everybody is going to be like you. Not everybody's going to have the same beliefs. Even in the spiritual community, people are going to disagree with you. You're going to have different viewpoints and perspectives. There's going to be people out there that if you say it's slightly wrong, they're going to jump on that and they're going to be like, no, you said it wrong, so it's wrong. That's not what I believe because you said it wrong, even though the essence of what you're saying is the same. So yeah, we're not all the same. We come at things from different angles, different perspectives. We're all on a different part of our journey. Just because somebody has a different belief to you, even if they're completely asleep, what we call asleep, living a complete 3D existence and not open to anything, that's okay. That might be their soul contract. That's their journey. Wish them love. Have an open mind with them. Try not to judge them. Maybe there's something that you can learn from them as well. And this one, I think this one is a particularly tricky one sometimes, because in those moments where we do still get triggered, and it can be by somebody, like obviously if somebody's in your face and they're quite a 3D person and they're like, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, you're a witch, you're away with the fairies, you're a hippie, you're a new ager, you're all this, that and the other. let them think it. Do you know what I mean? If your spiritual ego is balanced, then that doesn't matter, because you know who you are and you know what you believe and you know where you're heading, and you know what your mission is, and you know what your soul contracts are. It doesn't matter about them. Let them just wash off. And this, to me, this one is one of the hardest ones to do, especially like if you're in a bad mood and someone comes at you and you're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Get on board. Get on board with this. Do you know what I mean? But we have to constantly keep coming back to our centre point and be like, no, let it go. It's okay. It's okay for them to feel that way. It's okay for them to have different beliefs and understandings. We're never all going to wake up at the same time. We're never going to all have the same beliefs, even if we did. We're all going to have completely different perspectives, and that's what makes it interesting. We've just got to learn to, instead of seeing that as a fearful, attacking type thing, I guess we've got to step back, take a breath, and see it's like, okay, we've got differences. We're probably not going to agree on these. Maybe there's other things that we can actually learn from each other, or we maybe can get on some other things. But just don't expect everybody to be like you and have the same belief system, because I can tell you now, it won't happen. We are all very, very different. Like I said, even in the spiritual community, you might not agree with the next person or the person after that. And letting go of that spiritual ego is letting go of that and just letting people be, I guess. I think that's definitely one we could all work on a little bit harder. But yeah, so another one as well, let's keep moving. Another one, another sign of the spiritual ego is being positive all the time and avoiding any negativity as much as possible. So some spiritual practices and teachers and stuff focus on just being positive all the time, just focusing on love and light all the time, not acknowledging shadow sides or ego minds or any negativity in the world. They just close their eyes to it. It doesn't exist. And that's denying 50% of what it is to be a human on Earth, and maybe even in other places in the galaxy and the universe as well. But that is literally denying half of what it is to be a human. By avoiding it, you're just going to suppress it, and you're not going to deal with your own shadow side. You're not going to be able to accept other people. And you're going to make your circle really small, because you're just focusing on only the positive and the light. When we do shadow work, it requires us to focus on the dark sides of ourselves so much, and to integrate them and to heal it and to love them and to work with that inner child and stuff. But if we're not doing that, then we are still coming from a place of ego. We're holding our vibration down. We've got a spiritual ego, and we're doing ourselves a disservice, because we can't expand and grow as much as what we came here to do. When you sort of master the darkness and you focus on the darkness and the negativity and stuff, then that's when you start to understand the light and the love and the good side and the positive side of life. So to get a fully rounded experience and to be fully integrated and to fully grow and expand and to complete your mission here in your soul contracts, you can't really be avoiding those things, because it's a huge part of life. It's a huge part of who you are, and humans in general, and life on Earth. And to do that, yeah, you are holding yourself back. So don't be afraid to focus on the negativity, on the dark. Don't be afraid to go into it. Don't be afraid to feel it. Don't be afraid to work through it. Don't be afraid to be around somebody else's negativity. If you're strong enough in yourself, and you're connected to your higher self, and your vibration is high, their issues are not going to rub off onto you. If you're solid in who you are and where you're coming from, you can be that light in someone's darkness and not have to worry about it. Don't be fearful. Don't have that judgment, because that is a spiritual ego. And another example is thinking you're in 5D when you're not. So many people, like spiritual teachers and people on spiritual journey, they're like, yeah, I'm in 5D, this and this. And in reality, they're not, because they've not done the shadow work. They've not integrated their ego. They've not integrated the spiritual ego. There's still that shadow work to do. There's still that inner healing to do. There's still that going back and healing trauma to do. And if you're oblivious and you just think, yeah, I'm in 5D, I don't need to do anything now, that's it, that's me done, I'm all good, I've reached the master level, you've got a spiritual ego. And also, you won't be in 5D either, because you haven't done the work. At the moment as well, we do kind of go, like, we kind of go through 3D, 4D and 5D, back to 3D, back to 5D, back to 4D. We can be moving through all of them at the moment while we're going through the ascension, and while we are doing our own shadow work and integrating our ego. We can move through them all quite frequently as well. So to be in 5D all the time, you would probably have to be super masterful of your spirituality, gifts, your ego, everything. I mean, there is people in 5D, don't get me wrong, but to be in 5D all the time is probably a little bit, it's probably not quite the truth. So yeah, linking to that, if you don't do the shadow work, you're limiting how far you can go with things. If you do the shadow work and you integrate your shadow side, you heal your hidden trauma, and you keep doing it through life as it comes up again and keeps revisiting it and other things come in, then you're going to get closer to 5D and you're going to be spending more time in 5D. Whereas if you don't do the shadow work, you're kind of keeping yourself at a 3D, 4D sort of level. And you're opening yourself up to psychic attack from negative entities or reptilians, etc., because you're not doing that shadow work, and you're blocking parts of yourself off. You're creating resistance, you're creating blocks, and it also creates negativity, and it keeps your vibration lower than what it would do if you actually did that integration in the shadow work and worked on your ego and your spiritual ego. And also, like, it's okay to admit that we're not in 5D all the time. Like, it would be lovely if we was all in 5D all the time, and maybe in our lifetime we will get to see that. But right now, don't be sort of afraid to go through the dimensions and work on whichever issue in that dimension is most prominent. Yeah, don't be afraid to do the shadow work, guys. Don't be afraid of your shadow side. Don't be afraid of your ego. Just don't let it run the shop, and don't let it turn you into a narcissist either. That would be obviously the extreme end of the scale, but it obviously happens quite a lot. So yeah, okay, so what's next on the list? So another sign of a spiritual ego is acting or dressing a certain way to look more spiritual. So I bet there's plenty of people out there that know spiritual teachers or spiritual guides or whatever that dress a certain way to appear more spiritual and holy. A good example of this is in religion, like the Pope, for example, or like priests and stuff like that. They have a uniform, and it's to make them obviously look more spiritual, more regal, more in power, all that kind of stuff. But on a normal everyday to day level, acting a certain way, it is a spiritual ego, because you're not being authentic to yourself, you're not being who you really are, you're portraying this facade to look a certain way. So that's coming from definitely an egotistical place, and definitely not the heart place, not the heart space, sorry. It's coming from the mind. If you need to dress a certain way to look more spiritual or to come across more spiritual, then you've got more work to do, basically. And if you have to put on an act rather than just being who you are and letting the spirituality flow through you, then that's the spiritual ego as well. I've seen lots of people dress a certain way, all the time just to seem more spiritual. There's nothing wrong with like wanting to wear a certain thing or whatever, but if you're doing it just to look more of a certain type of person, and it's the front, like the acting as well, if you're putting on an acting front and behind closed doors, like if in public, sorry, you come across as all like sweetness, calm and light, and but then behind closed doors you're really nasty and you treat everybody like shit and you abuse people, you take advantage of people, then that's a spiritual ego, and that's just a huge ego, full stop, and that's borderline in narcissism. So while there's nothing wrong with wearing something because it's a certain type of way, or it looks more spiritual, or you feel like it in that moment, as long as you're sort of not doing it all the time just to come across as something that you're not. Like, it's okay to wear, if you wanted to wear a caftan one day, or you wanted to wear linen trousers and a linen top one day, like, nobody's going to judge you because it might look slightly more spiritual. It's just, if you're putting those clothes on all day, every day on purpose, just so people believe in your story more, then that's a spiritual ego. Yeah, you don't have to dress a certain way to be spiritual. You don't have to act a certain way to be spiritual. You just have to be true to yourself and be aware that we've all got egos and shadow sides, and we all have to keep working on them forever. You don't work on them to a certain point and then that's it, you never have to do it again. I mean, the more you work on it, the more your vibration will raise, but there will still be moments where you have to come back and work on yourself a little bit and be like, right, I think my ego is trying to get a little bit more power than it normally has. Let's just go back and balance, integrate it, do the shadow work, find the hidden trauma if there's any more trauma to heal, go and do past life work. Yeah, do all those things that's going to make you, like, help you expand, grow your consciousness, raise your vibration, and just move forward on your spiritual journey. Yeah, so that's everything that I've got down in my notes. If you guys can think of anything else that I've missed off, then just comment below, or if you want to send me a message, you can send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'm also on Etsy and obviously YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. If you've got any more spiritual tips as well, like, let me know. I'm always happy to hear more tips. And if you think that there's anything that needs to be added to spiritual ego, this video particularly, comment below, let us all know. It's always useful to have other perspectives and ideas talked about. So yeah, that's cool. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to mention on this video, so I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. Stay tuned for more videos. Like I said, don't forget to check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Etsy and obviously YouTube. Like, comment, share and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos, guys. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back soon. Bye for now.